Welcome back, and today we are going to be taking a look at the new premium F-18 that sits in the German tech tree. And while it's very similar to the one that you will find in the American tech tree, it is slightly different because we are looking at the F-18C late airframe and not the F-18C early, and the late has better engines, slightly more weight, as well as more countermeasures, making this, in my opinion, better for air hobby, even though it's slightly worse in the 1v1. This plane is of course not worth 80 bucks. Wait for the 50% sales if you actually want a bargain deal. If you can't wait for the sales or you want to buy anything else, feel free to use my discount code down in the description. You get 3% off, you get my decal, and you support the channel greatly as well. As I said, these two planes are largely the same. However, it is quite a bit different because you are now fighting America, which is either consisting completely out of F-4Ss when you get down-tiered, or completely consist out of F-16s and F-15s that you don't really want to run into. In an up tier, this thing I think is a bit worse, whereas in the down tiers this thing is quite a bit better, because all you really need to do is whack some F-4Ss out of the air, and even if they are piloted by a good player, which they rarely are, you're still going to have a very easy time with them. The F-18 is quite straightforward. You have good acceleration but terrible speed bleed, you have pretty good maneuverability, but you don't have real top speed. So it's a very well balanced aircraft, but it really does hinder you that you only have Fox 1 and Fox 2 missiles. Now this is of course to be expected at this battle rating, but expect yourself to be at 12.7 basically never. It's either going to be 13.3 and very often 13.7, where you are simply completely outclassed. Now this plane isn't completely hopeless. When you get into a dogfight, you can try and win against people. It's not that terrible, but you only have AIM 7s, and while they are AIM 7Ps, which are quite a bit better than AIM 7Fs and AIM 7Ms, more of that in a little bit, you are still up against Fox 3 slingers and very often missiles like the R-27ER, which just completely blow Sparrows out of the water. They're pretty simple to corkscrew, they are not particularly quick, and the plane they're mounted on isn't that quick either. So it kind of just makes it so that in a jousting match, you're forced to basically always break off first. Unless of course it's another AIM 7 and you can just decide to corkscrew it. Now they are backed up of course by AIM 9Ls, which I will show you in action right here against a very powerful opponent. The AIM 9Ls are of course non-IRCCM, making them not all that great, but I still opted to carry 4 of them and then 3 of the AIM 7s, because of course you do have quite a few more pylons opposed to the F-18A, which I do think is the better plane if you want to play an F-18. Yes, the missiles are worse and you have less of them, but the plane is mostly about the flight performance anyway, because the AIM 7s aren't all that competitive regardless. So I'd rather have 12.3, where you will see 11.7 very frequently, opposed to being at 12.7, where you will see 13.3 very frequently. At 13.0 and up, you are completely outclassed, and getting down tiered at 12.3 is just a much better experience. Now I'm going to show you this absolute sick ass 2v1. This guy pulls directly into my guns after he notches my missile, and then we switch on over to the Mirage that is defending his Rolands. Now this guy is going to do an absolute master play in defense, and we are just going to give him the fight of a lifetime. He's never gonna forget this one. So we kind of go sideways, give him advantage, don't fly directly away just to let him close the gap. And here comes the special part. We turn around and he just kills himself. The amount of aura that we carry is just absolutely insane. Now let's take a look at the AIM 7P. We shoot at the F-14 and he dies mid-flight. With the AIM 7P you can simply lock someone else and that missile will just do a 180 and slam whatever you look at, provided they of course don't corkscrew the missiles. And the AIM 7Fs as well as the AIM 7Ms simply lack this capability, making this plane a lot more effective in the team fights. Keep in mind with the AIM 7M, for example, if you fire it from the backline, you fire it at the wrong target, your teammate collects the kill and now your missile is dead in the water. Whereas with these, you simply fire them into the group, and if you see the guy you're locking dies, you see the guy you're locking flies the other direction, starts notching, or does some other wacky stuff, or you see another target pop out of the clouds out of nowhere that has priority, you can simply switch target and the missile will comply. Now there's one downside, you're seeing right here, sometimes your radar will switch lock itself, and whereas with the AIM 7Fs and AIM 7Ms, it will very often just keep the lock on the initial lock. Here it will actually switch targets and your missile will be wasted. So here's one instance where it can kind of bite you in the ass, but if you're vigilant about it and you're paying attention, it could be that you see it happen and you can just relock the guy that you were firing at initially. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It happened to me twice in total. It didn't occur at all, really. And the amount of times it helped me out because I was able to be more trigger happy. I didn't have to worry about wasting a missile nearly as much. Has netted me a lot of extra kills. So the 1 or 2 kills that I missed out on really don't affect the overall performance all that much. We come into the furball and we just leave. We don't want to contest 3 or 4 people at the same time. Even with teammates around, you can do the first turn against someone, get a load of position, but then you're gonna go 300 kilometers an hour in a highly contested area and you're probably just going to die. We went for the F-20, he runs away. I'm just gonna send one AIM-9L at him. I'm not gonna be catching him, so I'd rather just turn around for the F-14 that we just corkscrewed, just so we can actually engage someone. I'm not expecting Cookie and Milk over here to carry the match. So we turn around, we engage the F-14 because we might be able to catch him as he's still somewhat occupied by trying to eat Cookie and Milk. So we turn around, we help our teammate, and we might actually get a kill out of it. Whereas with the F-20, he would have just ran away and I wouldn't have been able to catch him. F-14 turns in front, we miss the easiest shot in the world, and we just kind of a loop on over. F-20 actually dies because I managed to hit him earlier in the furball. Get a hit on the F-14, we hit his wingtip, it doesn't really do any damage whatsoever, but at this point we have so much position that we can simply stamp on the elevator and just hose him down. A lot of hits in the mix, but then he finally goes into a flash pin, we turn him into a frisbee, and then we set him on fire. These cloud matches are a little bit of a pain in the ass in this thing because you need visibility. This is one of those planes where you need to be aware of everything around you at basically all times, because it's very important to not catch yourself out in a wrong position, because you are not able to disengage against most people. And when you do get locked into a fight with someone, even if it's an FGR, you're just gonna end up so slow that you are gonna become a sitting duck. Right, here's a good instance. We go up, FGR came out of the clouds, so I knew he was there in this instance because I saw him pitch up initially. But if he came up a little bit later, I wouldn't have been able to see him because the cloud cover is all over the map. Now it does have its perks, mainly where if you sit in the clouds or just above them and everyone is sitting below it, you can kind of sneak up on people with the AIM-9Ls, making them actually somewhat effective. But you need to make sure that you kind of sneak around and don't drop in too early, because the second you get spotted, everyone knows you are there. And once everyone knows you're there, the AIM-9Ls become borderline useless. And if they all decide to turn around for you, guess what? You're not gonna have a jolly time. You're actually going to suffer immensely and very likely going to end up completely dead with a magic up. The Hornet is pretty good at notching. It turns out very quickly. It loses a lot of speed, making it easier to fall into the notch window. Against Fox 1s, however, this isn't nearly as useful, and against Sparrows this isn't a big issue because you can either go cold or simply corkscrew them. When you go against the Russian radar missiles, especially the R-27ER, this doesn't really work. You can't just go cold, you can't corkscrew them, because when you go cold, you turn around, you lose a lot of your speed, and the missile is still heading into your direction, going Mach 12, meaning it's probably going to catch you and send you back to the hangar. You can't corkscrew them, they're much more maneuverable. And then, of course, we get to notching, and while this can happen, you can, of course, do it. It's a lot harder to do than with Fox 3 missiles, so don't expect it to work very often. Now, you can go cold and try to fool them with chaff that way. It does end up working pretty frequently, but you need to be in a position where you can, and you're going to be completely on the defensive. Keep in mind, you just lost 400 kilometers an hour probably, if not more, and the plane in your 6 has a higher top speed while going faster than you. This guy will catch you, and if he does reel you in, you are now in a terrible position, especially if he ends up bringing multiple people along. Because very often, when you show your 6 at the start of a game, they're all gonna go for you because they think they're going to get a free kill, especially when they know that you can't outrun them. And the best way to survive this is to simply avoid it, and I can't believe I'm saying this. That's why the German teams are just much better to play in right now. All the Russian radar missiles are very often going to be in your team, so you don't have to worry about the ER basically ever. The R-27R and the R-24R are a lot scarier at closer ranges. If they close the gap and they fire first, then don't try to corkscrew it, because you are going to get your balls imploded. However, you have more range, and especially with the IOG, you can just not worry about wasting the missile. You fire it from longer ranges and you put them on the defensive. If they end up defending it, you switch target, you shoot the missile at someone else, and you might actually still get a kill out of it. So now you push someone cold, you push him defensive, you now have a bit of a jump on him. You're probably not going to catch him, but at least he won't pressure you now, and it will give you a little bit more room to actually play the match out. And this is the main advantage over the American one, despite being the exact same plane. And no, America does not suffer, it has some of the better planes in the range. However, keep in mind, we are playing against randoms in Arabi, so we don't really have to worry about the individual performance all too much. Now, of course, you will see the occasional MiG-29, you will see the occasional Su-33, but don't expect to run into them all that often. And if you go into the multipad, guess what? The R27ER isn't actually all that scary. It's mostly about employing the tactic at the start. I do want to be at a decent amount of altitude. And when you see ERs flying your way, you need to be wary of them because they will end up completely demolishing you. F-4EJ comes in. I just go under him. Same thing with the MiG-29. Use the multipad. We turn around and it's a Phantom. He's not gonna do shit other than maybe run away, but there's multiple people around, so he's not really gonna be able to do that. We just shoot an aim-9L at him to make him maneuver and flare. He does so, and now I end up catching him, and he will not have the acceleration to actually get away from me. We spray a bit of a line, he dolphins up, we turn off the targeting computer because it ends up just messing you up more often than it actually helps you, and then we go into the last match. And again, we have low clouds, meaning that we can employ the tactic that we want, where we kind of sneak up behind them, but everyone is on the deck bar like one enemy, so I'm actually going to be a little bit more aggressive and see if I can push in. I see a missile coming my way. This is exactly what I warned you about, but I'm able to notch it, and we just turn back around, but we can't really do that because he sends a second missile at us. I remain on the defensive. I'm going to try to kind of outrun this thing. I'm chaffing while running away, going cold. I know that this thing is not gonna track once it gets closer, and if it does, I will just end up corkscrewing it. The second I see that it loses lock, I'm gonna turn back around. That FRS is now looking at something else, so I'm gonna send my aim-7 at him, and he doesn't really react. That is very easily going to hit him, and then we get launched at from below. We do the same thing. We pitch on up, we roll out, Sparrow misses, and then we engage the guys on the deck. Almost hit him, not quite a cigar. Second guy is relatively low and slow, and we end up locking him with the ACM. Didn't really mean to do that because I end up warning him. However, he doesn't really notice anyway and eats the 9L directly in the tailpipe. Missile comes in, that is not a radar missile, so we just drop a couple flares and that missile is never going to track. And for now, I just want to get out of here to get a slight amount of separation. That is another AIM-9L that is not even going to get in range. I just drop a few flares anyway, just to be safe, but that thing is about 500 meters behind me right now. I'm not exactly too worried, and I just get a little bit of altitude because I just know he's gonna fire another Sparrow at me. I'm just trying to waste his missiles at this point. The second he fires it, I'm gonna be turning around. We are dropping speed a little bit quicker. We drop the afterburner, we go low, we flare, we go underneath the F-18, and then we just turn into the direction that he's going to go towards. And because we drop speed before the merge, I'm now in a pretty decent position to get gun solution on him. He can simply run away, but most F-18 pilots never think about running away because they're always the slower plane. So they very often end up taking the fight. He does so, he loses a lot of speed. We shoot an AIM-9L at him, and then for some reason IR missiles just don't give a shit about flares like on F-18s. I don't care if they are getting shot at me or I'm shooting them at F-18s. AIM-9Ls basically always hit, even when they drop to 100% throttle. I don't think the plane is particularly hot. I mean, it looks really good, but I don't think the IR signature is that high. I might be mistaken, and I said this on the release and I said this on the video after. Flaring in the F-18 for some reason from straight 6 just never ends up working unless you drop a lot of throttle. Now, of course, sometimes it happens, especially at longer ranges, but when they get within like a kilometer, it feels like flying the Phantom back in 2023. Missiles just don't care about your flares and you end up getting hit. It's kind of annoying, but you can of course abuse it when you're fighting one. We then warned the FRF about the MiG-29 that appeared on the 6. I mean, he's just going to do 180, a sling and aim 120 and destroy his ass completely. MiG-29 goes down, and I know I just talked about never seeing ERs in your games, or at least in the enemy team. I know it's kind of ironic that I then have every clip in this video have a MiG-29 in the enemy team. I understand the irony, but keep in mind there's also games that I did outside of this video, and overall you just see them a lot less. Saying that I never have to care about them is of course not the entire truth. You just have to worry about them a lot less. And very often at least half of the enemy team is going to be F4Ss, F-18s and F-14s. Meaning you just have a lot less ERs to worry about overall. So maybe I was a bit hyperbolic. Please forgive me, I'm extremely tired right now. Look at this AIM-7P. We lock onto the multi-jet, I even lock onto the wrong missile. Missile goes off course completely. After like 5 to 10 seconds we find the F4S on the deck. The missile is already almost there, meaning I'm just able to guide it in. This guy has no way of retaliating. And then he shoots a missile at me as he is completely crippled. Luckily it's an F4S, meaning that I can just corkscrew him. If that's a MiG-29, I die. What a terrific dynamic. But luckily it's a Sparrow, and Sparrows are a bit of a joke. I probably shouldn't show you too much on how easy it is to dodge Sparrows, as then the enemies will also do it to me. But you know, we are here to learn. So here is your secret tech that hasn't been secret since like, I don't know when the Sparrow got added, but like a week after that. We lock onto the F-16 radar, and at this point I think it's an F-16. He's going pretty quick. He is going high. I decide to shoot at about 9 kilometers. He hasn't fired at us yet. I just go into the multi-pad above the water. Extremely easy to survive. He notches me. He goes defensive. I'm very low on fuel, and I know if I have the position early on, I will just absolutely clap this guy. And then it turns out it's a Viggen. And the Viggen having about the same flight performance as something as an F4F, I don't really have to worry about all too much, especially with the fuel discrepancy that we have going on. He ends up turning for me. Big mistake. I mean, I'm on a 6, he's turning. He's going to lose more speed than I do. He's going to accelerate worse. And I'm going to have a very easy time just kind of sitting on his 6. We kind of hose him down. We end up severing him, sending him back to the hangar. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you all for watching. A little bit rambly today. I'm sorry, my head is just not there right now. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.